Today I'm bringing you the 3 best theories for each of the Straw Hats. We'll start with Nami, and the first theory is that she'll end up being my wife. As I was saying, today we'll take a look at the 3 best theories for each of the Straw Hat members, explained and analyzed. With each one, feel free to leave your opinions in the comments about whether you agree with them or not. Also, you already know that if you enjoy these videos, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel right now so we can reach 5,000 subscribers and make my dream come true. Alright, I'll stop talking now. Let's get started. 1. The lies that became truth and Usopp's possible death. One of the oldest and most popular theories in the One Piece fandom is the idea that Usopp might actually die by the end of the story. And not just any death, but one that mirrors something he said countless times, that he wants to die as a brave warrior of the sea. Now, that may sound simple on the surface, but when you dig into the pattern Oda has built around Usopp, it gets a lot deeper. Usopp has this running gag in the series. He lies. A lot. From the very beginning, he's been telling outrageous stories, like having fought a giant goldfish whose poop is the size of an island, or battling massive moles. The wild part? Almost every one of these lies has come true in some form. That mole fight happened in Alabasta with Miss Merry Christmas. The tribe of tiny people, the Tontada in Dressrosa. That goldfish, after Little Garden, we got that too. At first glance, it might just seem like a funny gimmick, Oda giving Usopp this Pinocchio-turned-prophet vibe, but the consistency is so on point that it feels more like a narrative device than a coincidence. And that brings us back to the line, "I want to die as a brave warrior of the sea." He says it more than once. It's not just a wish, it's practically a declaration. And if his other lies are turning into truths, then what about this one? This theory really gains weight when you think about how much Oda loves foreshadowing. He set up big plot points years in advance. The idea that he planted Usopp's future death back in East Blue isn't far-fetched at all. In fact, if you assume Oda had the broad strokes of the ending in mind, even when One Piece was supposed to be a 5-year series, LOL, then Usopp's final fate could have been planned since day one. Usopp dying doesn't just fit with his personal narrative, it would also complete his arc perfectly. He started off as a coward, a liar, a kid playing pirate, but over the years, he's grown. He still lies, but he's also fought against giants, taken down strong enemies, and even awakened observation haki. He's earned respect. He's becoming the brave warrior he always dreamed of. So what better end than going out in a blaze of glory, protecting his crew or helping someone else, finally becoming what he always wanted to be, not just a liar, but a legend. That said, it doesn't have to be permanent death. Maybe he dies and is presumed dead, becoming a folklore hero, or maybe he dies and is remembered like a mythical figure. Either way, it's poetic. His lies weren't just fantasy, they were a prophecy, and the last one about dying heroically might just be the most important too. Usopp is related to Mont Blanc Noland, or carries his will. This one's a bit more obscure, but super interesting. The idea that Usopp could be related to Mont Blanc Noland, or at least carry his inherited will. Let's break this down. Noland was a famous explorer and warrior, and above all, someone who was labeled a liar by history. The story goes that he discovered a city of gold, but when he brought others to find it, it was gone. He was executed for being a fraud. Sound familiar? It should, because Usopp is also seen as a liar, and yet time and time again, the things he says somehow come true. In Skypiea, there's even a moment where Usopp connects with Noland's story. He reads about him, he's curious about him, and the parallels start to stack up. Even Luffy casually jokes, "Hey, that's just like Usopp." And later in Dressrosa, we find out that the Tontada know about Noland and even revere him. Guess what? The Tontada end up revering Usopp too, calling him God Usopp and praising him like a savior. It doesn't end there. Both men have deep ties to themes of truth, lies, and legacy. Both are mocked or misunderstood, but they still fight for others. Both play the role of unlikely heroes who leave big impacts wherever they go. So whether it's by blood or just through a shared destiny, this theory suggests that Usopp is Noland's spiritual successor. We don't know much about either of their family trees, but that doesn't really matter in One Piece. Inherited will is often stronger than blood. Roger and Luffy aren't related, yet they share the same drive and D in their names. So Usopp being connected to Noland doesn't need DNA to be meaningful. And there's a bonus. The current arc, Elbaf, could tie this theory together. Noland was an adventurer. It wouldn't be weird if he had been to Elbaf. If Usopp finds traces of Noland there, or even learns something something new about his own lineage, this theory could gain massive credibility. And narratively, it's clean. It gives Usopp a deeper purpose beyond just being the crew's sniper. It ties his obsession with lies and legends into the world's larger history. 3. Usopp will forge a legendary weapon, maybe for Luffy. Let's switch gears from destiny and death to something a little more hands-on. Usopp might not be an inventor on Frankie's level, but he's got some serious crafting skills. He built his own slingshot, Pop Green Arsenal, upgraded Nami's claim attack, and constantly modifies his gear. He's basically the crew's low-key weaponsmith. So here's the theory. Usopp will one day create a legendary weapon, either for himself or for someone else on the crew, possibly Luffy. Think about it. In Wano, we saw how powerful weapons like Enma can shape destinies. Legendary swords aren't just cool, they're symbolic. What if Usopp's contribution to the final war is building something iconic? It fits perfectly into his arc. He started with toys and tricks, then moved into serious battle gear. What's the next step? Something that rivals ancient weapons, not necessarily in destruction, but in legend. It could be a slingshot with insane power, or maybe he goes full out and builds Luffy a weapon that enhances his Nika abilities. A symbolic sword or shield, something that aligns with the sun god mythos. Here's the kicker. If Usopp does die heroically, see theory number 1, the weapon he leaves behind becomes part of his legacy. People don't just remember the warrior, they remember the weapon. That's how legends are made in One Piece. And hey, it's also a subtle flex on Oda's part. Instead of having the shipwright, Frankie, or the genius, Vegapunk, make the ultimate gear, the liar who no one took seriously ends up crafting a tool that helps win the final war. That kind of twist is exactly Oda's style. Usopp's been improving weapons since day one. This theory just takes it to the next logical level, whether it's creating something for himself to go out in a blaze of glory or giving Luffy a final gift to carry into the last battle. It would be the ultimate payoff for his entire journey. 1. Brook's second awakening, the true power of the Yomi Yomi no Mi. Alright, first up is a banger of a theory, that Brook might not be done evolving. We already know he's got the Yomi Yomi no Mi, the revive fruit, which basically brought him back to life after death, letting his soul return to his body. Even if the body was a skeleton by then. But what if that wasn't even the fruit's final form? What if there's a second awakening of this power that we've only started to see? Now, this idea isn't just pulled out of nowhere. Remember Whole Cake Island? Brook showed off some freaky stuff. Dude literally left his body and had his soul flying around like a spooky ghost version of himself. Full-on stand mode. If you're into JoJo references, that power alone was sick, and it kind of hinted that he's more than just a sword-swinging skeleton with musical vibes. That could have been his first awakening, with a beginning of mastering the fruit beyond the basic revive trick. So the theory goes, what if Brook can push this even further? Like, to the point of manipulating souls in the outside world, not just his own. We're talking full-blown necromancer Brook, summoning spirits, talking to the dead, maybe even traveling to the realm of the dead itself. And here's where things get really interesting. Brook himself mentioned something called the Yomi, a kind of underworld where his soul wandered before finding his body again. That ain't just poetic storytelling. He described it like a real place, a tangible, otherworldly dimension. So what if Oda's playing the long game, and that underworld becomes a crucial location later in the story? Maybe Brook, through an advanced awakening, can go there voluntarily. Could you imagine that? Brook being the only Straw Hat able to freely cross into the land of the dead. That's some game-changing power. This could tie into bigger lore, like maybe the final war has a spiritual dimension, maybe there's a reason Joy Boys will keeps reincarnating, maybe there's some dead characters whose guidance is needed to defeat the final villain. And Brook becomes the bridge between the living and the dead. Picture it, Brook closing his eye sockets, concentrating, and boom, he slips into the underworld to have a conversation with Roger, or Odin, or even someone like Joy Boy's soul, if that's a thing. Like, damn. And let's not forget, in One Piece, alternate dimensions aren't unheard of. Blueno's Door fruit opened doors to a pocket dimension. Brûlé had her mirror world. This isn't Naruto-style chakra planes. One Piece canon has alternate realms, so a realm of the dead, totally plausible. This second awakening theory basically turns Brook into one of the most important Straw Hats in the endgame. Imagine if a whole side quest involves going into the underworld to get a secret about the One Piece. And Brook is the only one who can lead the crew there. That would give the skeleton the kind of spotlight he honestly deserves. He's been comic relief, emotional support, and musical king, but this theory turns him into a key player in the end of the world. 2. Brook using music to talk to or temporarily revive the dead. Now this one's juicy and just a little insane in the best way, so check this. What if Brook could use his music, yeah, his actual soul-powered jam sessions, to temporarily bring the dead back to life? Not in a full-on zombie army kind of way, but like short, poetic, meaningful resurrections. Let me set the stage. Brook is the Soul King. That's not just a band name. It's low-key prophetic. He's a literal skeleton powered by his soul, using music that literally touches the souls of people around him. We've seen him calm folks, confuse enemies, boost morale, all with a guitar solo. So the theory goes, what if he takes it even further and uses that music to resonate with the souls of the dead? Imagine there's a major arc and someone important dies, maybe an ally with key info, or someone the crew had bonded with. Normally, that'd be it. Rest in peace. But Brook, feeling the pain and desperation, picks up his guitar, strums a haunting tune, and suddenly, the soul of that person flickers into the scene for 10 minutes, maybe even 1 hour, just enough to talk, say goodbye, share a last message, drop vital lore. Then they fade back into the afterlife. It's not resurrection in the traditional sense, not some full-blooded return to life. It's soul projection, spiritual echo, music-powered ghost chat, and because it's temporary, it doesn't mess with the finality of death that Oda usually respects. What's wild is this isn't even that far from what Brook already does. His soul detaches from his body, his voice reaches into people's hearts. He's literally called the Soul King, and his whole shtick is that he understands souls. So if anyone in the world of One Piece could summon a soul for a limited encore, it's our bony bard. This theory would also tie Brook into so many potential scenes. He could give closure to side characters. He could bring back lost legends for a last few words. Maybe even bring back Ace for a quick Luffy hug, and I'm proud of you, little bro. You know Oda would absolutely ruin us with that scene emotionally. Plus, if this was tied to time, like only within 24 hours of death, it'd create amazing tension. We need to talk to so-and-so, but they died 12 hours ago. Brook, we've got one shot. Cue desperate music and an epic ghost concert. All this also justifies Brook's musician identity being more than comic flavor. If his music literally bends the veil between life and death, it makes his art power, not in a fighting stronger sense, but in a narrative sense. He'd be a bard in the truest mythical sense, a wielder of ancient spiritual power through music. Honestly, this might be one of the coolest power-ups One Piece could ever give to a non-fighter character. A little grim, sure, but poetic, so One Piece. 3. Brook becomes the guardian of the Straw Hats' legacy. Okay, now this last one. This one's gonna punch you in the feelings, because it's not about flashy powers or wild reveals, it's about legacy. The theory? Brook survives everyone, and becomes the storyteller, the protector of the Straw Hats' memory. Let's be real, Brook's already over 90 years old. He's a skeleton. The man literally doesn't age anymore. Unless his bones start crumbling, he's functionally immortal. So flash forward 100 years. The Straw Hats are legends. Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Sanji, all gone. Their tale is told in whispers and songs. But who's there, walking the earth, still jamming on his guitar? Brook. The theory says Brook becomes like a traveling bard or myth keeper. He wanders the world, telling stories through his music. He sings about the adventures of his nakama. Maybe there's a song for each of them. Sanji's fire, Nami's storms, Usopp's bravery. He keeps the dream alive, especially for people in places that never met the Straw Hats personally. Picture this. A village kid hears a song from a traveling skeleton about the pirate king, Luffy, about how he united the seas, broke the chains of oppression, laughed at the end of the world, and the kid asks, was he real? And Brook just smiles and plays another song. Not only is this poetic as hell, it makes perfect sense narratively. Brook has always been the echo of an earlier era. He waited decades for Laboon. He's been through loss and loneliness, and now he'd use that eternal lifespan to remember, to make sure their story never dies. This also brings closure to Brook's arc. He started off with death, loss, isolation. He ends as the soul of the world, literally and metaphorically. It's a little sad, yeah, the idea of him standing by their graves, still strumming, but it's also beautiful, because it means the dream lives on. The laughter echoes. He'd be the guardian of their legend, the bard of the Pirate King's crew, still rocking, still telling their tale. Theory 1. Sanji will create a new style of cooking, alright? So this theory is less about punching bad guys and more about pans and passion. The idea is that Sanji, beyond being one of Luffy's wings and a powerhouse in the crew, could go on to revolutionize the culinary world of One Piece. Not by just cooking better food, but by inventing an entirely new style of cooking, his own signature culinary philosophy. This makes a lot of sense when you think about who Sanji really is. He's not just some guy who cooks for the crew. His identity, his values, his dreams, they all revolve around food. He left everything behind to follow Zeph's ideals, respects food so deeply he'd rather starve than waste it, and he constantly uses cooking as a way to care for others. So what's next for a chef like that? You guessed it, innovation. Sanji has traveled to so many islands and cultures across the Grand Line. He studied cooking styles from all over the world. He learned recipes from Kamabaka, has experience with Sky Island ingredients, Fishman Island dishes, even ancient stuff in Wano. So the theory goes, what if he takes all that knowledge and fuses it into one cohesive culinary philosophy? Not only that, but maybe he cooks differently. We're talking flashy and unique, a mix of martial arts and culinary mastery. Imagine Sanji using his kicks to dice ingredients mid-air or searing meat with Diablo jam. Wild? Yeah, but this is One Piece, and it fits his vibe perfectly. His whole fighting style is kick-based, so why not carry that over to his food prep too? Beyond technique, the style could be something more meaningful, like infusing meals with emotion or spiritual energy. Remember how Sanji made food that physically boosted the Straw Hat's recovery? Maybe his future recipes can blend nutrition, flavor, and strength boosts, becoming a sought-after secret in the culinary world. And if this becomes a movement, imagine chefs around the world following the blackleg style of cooking. Sanji becoming a symbol of revolutionary cuisine, his methods taught in schools across the seas. He'd be the Pirate King of cooking, carrying Zeph's dream of the all blue into every kitchen that follows in his footsteps. This theory is not about flashy battles or political stakes, but it's deeply personal and arguably just as meaningful. It's about growth, legacy, and passion, and it's one of the most fitting futures for a character like Sanji. Theory 2. Sanji will become King of Germa. Now this one's a bit controversial. The idea here is that despite everything Sanji went through with the Vinsmokes, abuse, trauma, rejection, he'll eventually reconcile with them and take over the Germa 66 Kingdom. At first glance, this feels super weird. Sanji hates Germa. He rejected their ideology, refused to wear the raid suit until he had to, and distanced himself from their scientific, heartless culture. So the idea of him becoming king feels off. But let's dig deeper. Germa is still around, still powerful, and still ruled by Sanji's terrible father. But maybe the Vinsmokes start to see the error of their ways, perhaps influenced by how Sanji defied them and still became strong and noble. Maybe they soften, maybe not, but the point is, they come to realize that Sanji is the only one fit to lead them into a better future. Imagine this, Germa is struggling and Sanji steps in, not for them, but for the people under their rule. He takes the throne and turns the whole kingdom upside down. No more heartless cloning, no more cold-blooded militarism. Under Sanji, Germa becomes a kingdom of compassion and innovation, maybe even focused on healing and food instead of war. And here's where it gets juicy. What if Sanji rebrands Germa as a kingdom based around cuisine? Picture a floating nation of gourmet chefs and restaurants, supported by the best tech Germa has to offer. They sail the seas, helping starving islands, building food networks, and spreading joy through flavor. Sounds crazy? Sure, but it's very Sanji. Now take it even further. What if Germa's new HQ is built above the All Blue? That mythical sea with fish from every ocean. If it exists, it would be the perfect place for Sanji to build a culinary empire. The Vinsmoke legacy becomes something new, something redemptive. In the end, Sanji wouldn't be Mr. Prince. He'd be Mr. King, but not the cold king of his father's dreams, a ruler of flavor, freedom, and compassion. It's a long shot, but one hell of a satisfying redemption arc for both Sanji and his cursed bloodline. Theory 3. Sanji will fully inherit Zeph's will. Now this one's got that classic One Piece flavor. legacy. The theory says that Sanji won't just follow in Zeph's footsteps. He'll take on his entire will, completely inheriting everything Zeph stood for. Think about it. Zeph wasn't just Sanji's mentor. He was his father in every way that counts. He taught him to cook, to fight, to be a man of principles. And most of all, he passed on the dream of the all blue. Sanji already carries that dream, but this theory says it won't stop there. One day, Sanji will run Baratie, not as some nostalgic callback, but as the new symbol of pirate chef culture. Maybe Zeph retires, or maybe he passes away, but Sanji takes over, not just the restaurant, but the spirit behind it. He turns Baratie into a global chain, or maybe he runs a new version of it aboard a flagship that sails the world. Either way, it becomes a place where anyone from any background can eat, laugh, and live, like Zeph always intended. And maybe, just maybe, Sanji hires other young chefs with troubled pasts, paying it forward the same way Zeph once saved him. Even the parallel is clean. Zeph lost a leg for Sanji. Sanji uses that same leg to rise to the top. Zeph was a pirate and a cook. Sanji becomes a pirate king's right hand and the world's best chef. Zeph taught Sanji to fight with his feet. Sanji perfects that art and teaches others. This isn't just inheritance, it's evolution. Sanji wouldn't just carry Zeph's will, he'd surpass it. He'd honor his old man by becoming even better than he ever dreamed. And that honestly might be the most One Piece kind of ending Sanji could have. Theory 1. Chopper will cure all diseases, even the one that killed Roger. Let's start with the most iconic Chopper theory, the one literally everyone has thought about at least once. Chopper will find a cure for every disease in the world. Yeah, that's the big one. It's not just a theory, really. It feels more like a slow-burning prophecy built into the story from the moment Chopper was introduced. So where does this come from? It all starts with his backstory. Dr. Hiraluk, the guy who changed Chopper's life, had one huge belief: there's no disease that can't be cured. That statement stuck with Chopper, and ever since, it's been his lifelong goal to make it a reality. But here's where it gets juicy. This dream isn't just wishful thinking or a kid's fantasy. In One Piece, dreams have weight. They drive arcs, shape characters, and often define legacies. For Chopper, this dream is his version of the Pirate King goal. And if Luffy's chasing a legend, why wouldn't Chopper? Now let's tie this into the broader story. Gol D. Roger, the Pirate King, died of an incurable illness. That's canon. The guy who changed the world couldn't be saved, even by the best doctors. And that's where this theory levels up. The idea is that Luffy might get the same disease. It wouldn't just be tragic, it would be poetic. Luffy walking the path of Roger only to reach the same roadblock. Except this time, there's Chopper. So imagine this scenario. Luffy gets sick. It's serious. It's deadly. And no one can stop it. But Chopper, now a world-class doctor, finds a way. He does what no one could do for Roger. He cures the incurable. That's the ultimate proof he fulfilled his dream. Not only does he save his captain, but he also redefines what's possible in medicine. And in doing so, he literally saves the future of the world. This theory also works even if Luffy doesn't get sick. Maybe Chopper just keeps studying. Maybe we get a post-time skip future, like a 10 to 20 year time jump, and we see him running a clinic, curing the rarest of rare diseases. Either way, he becomes a medical legend, someone people whisper about in the same way they talk about Joy Boy or the Pirate King. But instead of treasure or warfare, his legacy is healing. And it's not just a narrative full circle, it's character fulfillment. Chopper, the little reindeer who was once rejected, feared, and misunderstood, becomes the world's greatest healer. It's peak One Piece character payoff. Theory 2, Chopper will be the key to finding the One Piece. Thanks to his animal talk ability, this one, super underrated and surprisingly logical. Chopper might be the one to help find the One Piece using his ability to talk to animals. Let's break it down. Chopper is a reindeer who ate the human fruit. So yeah, he walks, talks, and acts like a human, but biologically, he's still part animal, and that's key. Throughout the story, we've seen that he can understand and communicate with animals in a way no other Straw Hat can. He acts like a translator for creatures that would otherwise be silent background details. Now here's where the theory kicks in. What if when they reach the final island, Raftel or Laugh-Tale, the One Piece isn't just sitting out in the open? What if it's hidden? Maybe it's in a cave. Maybe there's some kind of natural protection, and the only ones who know where it is are the island's animals. Yup, not a log pose, not some epic battle, just a bunch of local creatures who've been chilling on that island for centuries and know what's up. And suddenly, Chopper's skill becomes critical. While everyone else is looking for clues, he just talks to a monkey or something and gets the real tea. Yeah, bro, that treasure, it's under that big waterfall. We see weird people go there every few decades. Boom, problem solved. And it's even deeper than that. What if the One Piece is not just treasure, but something symbolic or emotional? Maybe it's connected to Joy Boy, to ancient creatures, or to something the animals on the island protect. Chopper, with his empathy and communication skills, could connect with them and unlock secrets no one else could. It'd be a great twist too. People expect Robin or Luffy to be the key to everything, but Chopper, no one would see that coming. It would give him a major role in the climax and justify his place in the crew beyond being the cute mascot. Also, it reinforces a major One Piece theme. Everyone matters. Every Straw Hat has a purpose, even if it's not flashy. Chopper's been sidelined a bit in combat lately, but this would be a way for Oda to make his unique gift essential to the story's finale. Theory 3. Chopper will create a mobile hospital to help the world. This one is a personal favorite. Chopper might build and operate a mobile hospital ship after One Piece ends. Let that idea sink in for a second. Instead of settling down in a fancy city or living on an island, Chopper continues traveling, but not with pirates. This time he travels as a doctor for the people. His ship is fully equipped. Treatment rooms, lab stations, a surgical area, even beds for long-term patients. Think of it like Barati, but for medicine instead of food. And the best part? The ship moves. It sails from island to island, offering medical care to people who have no hospitals. That's huge in a world made of islands where travel is tough and many communities are isolated. We've already seen how hard it is for people to find good medical treatment in One Piece. From Nami's sickness in Little Garden to Roger's incurable disease, access to care is a real problem. This ship, it solves that. Maybe it's even a fleet, one in each blue. And Chopper, being the legend he is, trains doctors on each one. You could even imagine a Denden Mushi hotline. Someone calls, says their village is in trouble, and the Chopper ship sets sail to help. It's like the Marineford Buster call, but for healing, not destruction. This also connects to Chopper's dream. Healing every disease doesn't just mean discovering cures. It means making those cures accessible. And what better way than bringing the hospital directly to the people? Oda could even show this in a time skip epilogue. Old Chopper, still short and fluffy, running the whole operation, getting hugged by kids on every island, being a symbol of hope. He doesn't need a bounty. His legend is the lives he saved. It's poetic, it's useful, and honestly, it would be the most wholesome legacy in all of One Piece. Theory 1. Nami might be of celestial or divine origin. Let's start with the juiciest one, the idea that Nami might secretly have divine or even celestial dragon lineage. Sounds wild, right? But once you lay out all the breadcrumbs Oda has scattered through the story, it actually starts to feel pretty solid. First, let's talk about how Nami was introduced. She wasn't born in Kokoyashi village like Nojiko. She was found as a baby during a storm, lying in the middle of chaos, and rescued by Bellemere. That's already suspicious. This isn't some orphan adoption cliche. Nami's origin feels deliberately mysterious. Oda didn't need to make it a stormy rescue scene. He chose that. And in One Piece, that kind of detail always comes back later. Now, consider Nami's obsession with money and wealth. While at first it was a survival trait, she needed to buy back her village from Arlong, her love of treasure has stuck around long after she had any need for it. She's not greedy in a selfish way, but her instincts for treasure and economics are practically supernatural. Combine that with her natural elegance, tactical intelligence, and charm, and you've got a character who stands out even beyond her beauty. She often acts like royalty, bossing the boys around, negotiating deals, commanding respect. There's also her ridiculous talent with weather, not just the climate act. Even before she got that tool, she could predict storms and read wind patterns like no one else. Remember in Drum Island when she was sick in bed and still predicted a storm coming? That's not just skill, that's something deeper. It's almost like she's connected to the weather. So what's the theory then? That Nami comes from a bloodline tied to the heavens. Whether it's celestial dragons or something even older, maybe a race of skyfolk with natural weather-related abilities, like the Birkin or Skypians, or even a royal family destroyed in war. It would explain everything. Her weather intuition, her strange origins, her magnetic pull toward wealth, her deep bond with Zeus, her role as the weather witch of the Straw Hats. And here's the kicker. This could be a plot twist near the end of the series. A final revelation about Nami's parents parents or heritage could give her an emotional arc similar to Sanji's, except hers would be tied to ancient mysteries or lost nobility. It wouldn't change her personality, but it could give her more weight in the final conflict, especially if her heritage ties to the world government, the ancient weapons, or the Void Century. In a story where identity and legacy matter so much, Nami's hidden past is one of the few remaining mysteries we haven't explored, and the deeper her connection to the world's ancient power structures, the more crucial her role could become in the climax. Theory 2, Nami will be key to reaching Laugh Tale through her mapping abilities. Alright, this one hits harder when you think about what Nami's actual dream is. To draw a map of the entire world. Not become Pirate Queen, not find treasure, not fight the world government, just create the ultimate map. Seems simple, right? But here's where the theory goes next level. What if Nami's dream and her cartographic skills are actually essential to finding Laugh Tale? We all know that to reach Laugh Tale, you need the 4 road poneglyphs. Once you have them, you plot the locations and supposedly trace an X to find the final island. That seems easy enough, but the moment you dig into the details, it becomes clear it might not be so simple. Why? Because when the crew first found a road poneglyph, Robin made a curious comment to Nami. She said the glyph wasn't just a location, it resembled a navigation chart. That line might seem minor, but it implies that understanding the final destination isn't just about reading text, it's about interpreting the information as a map. Enter Nami, the best navigator and cartographer in the story. If the road poneglyphs aren't literal GPS coordinates, but instead form a complex, possibly ancient or even mystical chart, then Nami is the only one who could decode it. It wouldn't just be about following the log pose anymore. It would require understanding weather patterns, currents, planetary positions, maybe even celestial navigation, which ties back to the first theory. This makes Nami more than just a support character. It puts her at the heart of the Straw Hat's final journey. Just like how Robin reads the Void Century, Nami could be the one to chart the course to Laugh Tale. And from a narrative standpoint, it's genius. Every Straw Hat plays a role in the final journey. Frankie builds the ship, Jinbe steers it, Robin deciphers the text, Luffy leads, but Nami is the one who actually gets them there, who draws the final line, completes the map, and fulfills her lifelong dream right alongside Luffy's. It turns her cartography into something epic and gives her a legacy far bigger than just being the navigator. Theory 3, Nami will control the weather globally and monetize it. This one's future focused and it slaps. Nami will become the queen of weather manipulation, literally controlling the climate across the world and turn it into a business. We already know that Nami's Climatact, powered by weather balls and now enhanced with Zeus, allows her to manipulate rain, lightning, wind, and even summon massive storms. She's been evolving her weather control abilities for years, and unlike most Devil Fruit powers, hers come from tools and knowledge, meaning they can keep growing indefinitely. So here's the theory. Once the One Piece journey ends, Nami sets up a worldwide weather service. Towns, islands, and entire regions can pay for her to create the weather they need. Crops not growing, she brings rain. Hurricanes on the way, she disperses them. Need sunshine for a festival, boom, clear skies. All custom ordered through Denden Mushi. It sounds insane, but it's actually genius. It fulfills her love for money, it uses her unique talents, and it helps people everywhere. It turns her into a climate wizard and a global celebrity. You could even see this becoming a formal business. Nami's Climacorp, with trained weather techs she oversees. Maybe she works with Vegapunk's old weather tech from Weatheria and builds it into a global network. Maybe she integrates it with sea routes and helps navigators stay safe. She could even work with the New World government post-revolution to prevent famines or natural disasters. This would make Nami the most influential post-crew Straw Hat. Luffy becomes Pirate King. Robin preserves history. Frankie builds the future. But Nami, she controls the skies. And if you're worried about the whole altering weather is dangerous argument, just remember, we're in a world with floating islands, talking whales, and giant elephants carrying entire nations. Realism isn't the point. In One Piece, it's all about dreams, and Nami's dream could literally shape the world's weather, bring peace to storm-ravaged regions, and give her a never-ending supply of treasure in return. Sounds like a win-win. Theory 1. Frankie will recreate Pluton or build a new one. Let's start with the most well-known Frankie theory. He's gonna rebuild Pluton, the ancient weapon. Not just help someone else do it, not just sketch it up, but fully recreate it himself. Back in Eni's lobby, Frankie burned the blueprints for Pluton in front of CP9. But here's the twist. A ton of fans, and this theory, believe he memorized them. Frankie's a genius craftsman with a brain like a supercomputer when it comes to engineering. There's no way he handled something that dangerous without locking it in his head first. Now, we know the original Pluton is supposedly hidden in Wano, but the theory isn't about digging it up, it's about countering it. If the original Pluton is used by the world government or some other threat, the idea is Frankie would build his own Pluton, a counter weapon to stop it, not a copy, not a replica, something completely unique that borrows from the blueprint but is infused with Frankie's own tech and ideals. It wouldn't be the same weapon, it would be better, because Frankie wouldn't just recreate something from the Void Century. He'd upgrade it with modern tech, Sunny's design principles, and everything he's learned from Vegapunk's lab on Egghead. And that's where this theory really pops off. Frankie has been collecting knowledge for years. He rebuilt his body with Vegapunk's blueprints, built the 1000 Sunny from Atom Wood, and even modified his mecha with insane features. If anyone has the skills to create a modern ancient weapon, it's him. And with the world heading toward all-out war, it makes total sense for him to have a massive role beyond just the shipwright. A custom Pluton could be anything, a mobile warship, a massive mecha, or even an upgraded Sunny. Some fans think the Sunny itself could transform into a Pluton-like machine. Others believe Frankie might build a separate craft, kind of like a last resort battleship. Either way, this would make Frankie crucial in the final battle. Imagine Luffy taking on Emu or the Gorosei while Frankie rolls up in the mech equivalent of Godzilla. Total chaos, total hype, and even narratively it fits. Pluton was once a threat to the world, but Frankie could make it a protector of freedom, a weapon not of destruction but of liberation, just like the Straw Hats themselves. Theory 2, Frankie will build a robot army for the final war. This one's straight out of a mecha anime fever dream, but it works. The theory says Frankie is going to build an army of robots to help in the final war. Sounds wild, but let's break it down. Back in Marineford, the Marines used the pacifistas, robot soldiers modeled after Kuma. They were terrifying, efficient, and basically turned the tide of war. So the idea here is that Frankie takes that concept and flips it. A Straw Hat version of pacifistas, cyborgs built for freedom. Now think about what we've seen from Frankie so far. He's built the Frankie Shogun, his giant mech, the 1000 Sunny, a ship with weapons hidden all over it, upgraded arms, lasers, and gear using Vegapunk's designs. The guy is basically a one-man robotics lab. He even uses cola as fuel. How is this man not the most anime thing in the story already? So this theory goes, in the lead up to the final war, likely against the world government, Frankie builds a fleet of robot warriors, not thousands, just enough to make a dent. 20 to 30 battle-ready, Sunny-styled mechs with individual functions. Tank type, air type, stealth type, etc. Some might be piloted by allies, like Usopp, Chopper, maybe even Vivi, while others are AI controlled. Could even be remote controlled by Frankie from the Sunny like a commander. And here's the best part, he might not do it alone. Vegapunk is now involved in the story, and he's shown interest in rebellion. If he and Frankie team up, that's a dream team of tech. Between Frankie's creativity and Vegapunk's insane science, a robot army isn't just possible, it's practically guaranteed. Plus, the world is gonna need help. We're talking about a battle against the Celestial Dragons, the Admirals, the Gorosei, maybe even Emu. If Luffy and his core crew are fighting on the front lines, the background forces, Wano warriors, revolutionaries, old allies, will need support. Enter Frankie's robot army. They provide backup, defend civilians, stall fleets. It's not about overpowering the Marines. It's about evening the odds in a chaotic battlefield. This would give Frankie a legendary legacy. He wouldn't just be the guy who built the ship, he'd be the one who built the resistance. Theory 3. Frankie will unlock his final form. Ultimate Mecha Evolution. This is the most hype theory, and honestly, the one that needs to happen. The theory says that Frankie will unlock a final transformation, a fully upgraded version of himself, beyond the Frankie Shogun, beyond the post-time skip body, beyond anything we've seen so far. Here's the idea. Throughout the story, everyone in the Straw Hats has leveled up visually. Luffy got Gear 5, Zoro unlocked advanced swordsmanship, Sanji has his Germa enhancements, Robin has her demon form, form. Even Nami got Zeus, but Frankie, he's kind of been the same since Fishman Island. Yeah, he added new weapons and tech, but he hasn't had that huge glow-up moment. This theory says that's intentional. Oda's saving it. The Sunny itself has hidden compartments. We've seen doors that haven't opened, weapons that haven't fired. The idea is that during the final war, Frankie merges with part of the Sunny or reveals an attachment module that triggers his final form. Think Megazord meets Gundam, a sleek, high-power Frankie mecha hybrid. He wouldn't pilot it like the Frankie Shogun. He'd become it, fully integrated with the system, combining engineering and humanity like never before. The transformation could be triggered by emergency protocols, or maybe by connecting to a Vegapunk satellite or something he pre-built during the Egghead arc. The transformation would come with upgraded lasers, flight, shielding, and artillery, possibly even AI enhancements. And narratively, it gives Frankie a moment. He's often comic relief, but fans know he deserves more. A final battle form would let him shine in a way we haven't seen since Enies Lobby. Picture him saving the crew with a surprise entrance, blasting through enemies, doing the super pose with war music in the background. Even better, imagine if his final form is powered by the Sunny's core. Like, the ship itself trusts him enough to connect with him. That would make Frankie not just the builder of the ship, but part of its soul. Theory 1. Robin will unlock a giant clone army version of herself. Alright, let's start with one of the flashiest Robin theories out there. She'll eventually be able to create full-sized giant clones of herself. Not just hands, not legs, not even the demon-looking form we saw in Wano, but actual full Robin clones that are huge, battle-ready, and possibly numerous. Like an entire army made of Robin. Sounds nuts, right? But the idea has roots in what we've already seen. Back in Enies Lobby, Robin was sprouting dozens of arms and legs. Over time, especially after the time skip, she started combining her sprouts into bigger structures, massive limbs, whole torsos, even a monstrous demon form in Onigashima. So naturally, if she can build parts of herself bigger and bigger, why wouldn't she eventually be able to put all those parts together and make full-body clones of her entire self? And we're not just talking regular size here. The theory suggests giant scale versions. Think about it. Robin creates a 10-meter tall version of herself that can wreck buildings, throw enemies around like toys, or just be a walking wall of destruction. Now imagine her sprouting 2 or 3 of these. Or 10th, an army of Robins all sprouting more limbs from their giant arms. It's chaos. Power-wise, it makes sense. The Hana Hana no Mi, Flower Flower Fruit, has insane scaling potential. It lets her replicate her own body as many times as she wants and place them wherever she wants. With enough stamina and training, she could turn into a one-woman army. And with the Straw Hats heading into what's basically the final war against the world government, it would make sense for Oda to give her one last huge, literally, upgrade. The only question is stamina. The bigger the body, the more energy it would take. But hey, Luffy burns through 3 gears a fight. Zoro nearly dies every other arc. Robin's due for her high-risk, high-reward moment, and this would make her terrifying in combat. Not just a support fighter, but an unstoppable tank. The best part? It ties into her personality too. She's always been calm, calculating, but fiercely protective of her crew. A giant clone army would be a perfect way for her to shield them, literally, with her own body. Multiply. Theory 2. Robin is hiding crucial information from the crew. This one's less about power and more about trust. Robin might be hiding key information from the rest of the crew, on purpose. And yeah, this one hits different. Since the time skip, Robin's had access to a lot of poneglyphs. She's read ones in Zoo, Wano, Fishman Island, and probably some off-screen. And what's weird is, she rarely tells the crew what they say. Like, sure, sometimes she shares little bits. This is a road poneglyph, or this talks about Poseidon. But overall, she keeps quiet, really quiet. This theory suggests she's doing that intentionally, not because she's betraying anyone. Far from it, but because what she's reading is so dangerous, so heavy that sharing it too early could make the crew targets, or even destroy their morale. Think about it, Robin might already know the truth about Joy Boy, or what the One Piece is, or how the final war will unfold. But instead of dumping that info and risking chaos, she's waiting for the right moment, probably during the last big arc, maybe even in the middle of a major battle when Luffy needs a push or someone like Imu is revealed. It's a smart narrative move too. Oda's is clearly holding off on major Void Century reveals, and since Robin is the only one who can read the poneglyphs, it makes sense to filter that info through her and make her the gatekeeper of those secrets until it matters most. But it's also a bit tragic. Robin has always been the quiet, observant one, carrying the weight of Ohara's destruction, watching people die for knowledge, and now she's shouldering the biggest truths in the world, totally alone. That gives her a crazy amount of internal depth and makes her role in the final act way more impactful than just the historian. Expect a moment near the climax where she finally reveals what she knows, and it changes everything. Theory 3. Robin will rebuild Ohara on Elbaf, the new Ohara theory. This theory is way more wholesome and post-plot. Robin will rebuild the legacy of Ohara on Elbaf, turning it into a new haven for archaeology and truth. It all goes back to her origin. Robin was the only survivor of Ohara, the island of scholars destroyed by the world government for seeking forbidden knowledge. That tragedy shaped her entire life. But now, for the first time in forever, Robin isn't alone. She has allies. She has people willing to fight to protect the truth. And more importantly, she has books. Actual books salvaged from Ohara, hidden, preserved, and now in the hands of Saul and the Elbaf giants. Here's the vision. After the final war, when the world begins to rebuild, Robin doesn't just disappear or retire. She becomes the founder of a new Ohara, built on Elbaf, a place where knowledge is free, history is protected, and future scholars can study without fear of annihilation. Why Elbaf? Because it's the perfect place. The giants are strong, they live long lives, and under Saul's influence, they're becoming more educated and curious. They're not just warriors anymore, they're growing. With Robin's guidance, they could become the guardians of history, and if someone tries to erase this new Ohara like last time, they'll have to go through an army of massive librarians with axes. It's poetic. The island that once hosted the world's knowledge was burned down by fear, but now, thanks to Robin, that knowledge is alive again, and better protected than ever. Plus, it's a legacy move. Robin's goal was never to be a war hero or a political figure. It was to preserve the truth, to uncover what the world government tried to hide, and this theory gives her exactly that, a place where that mission continues long after the Straw Hat's journey ends. Imagine the final scene. Years after the story ends, a young scholar walks into the great library of Elbaf. They see Robin, older, wiser, still reading, still smiling. The camera pans over thousands of books, poneglyph translations, Void Century research, and a plaque that reads, "In memory of Ohara, in defiance of silence." Yeah, that hits. Theory 1. Jinbe has a hidden berserker transformation. Alright, let's kick things off with the wildest idea. Jinbe has an untapped berserker state, a kind of primal transformation only fishmen can access. Now, this isn't just headcanon pulled from thin air. The theory comes straight from Arlong's old statements in the manga. He once mentioned that fishmen have the ability to enter a berserker-like state, an instinctual power-up that makes them faster, stronger, and much more dangerous. In Arlong's case, his eyes turned red, and he went beast mode for a short time. That sounds suspiciously like a shonen power-up trigger, and if someone as mid-tier as Arlong can do it, imagine what Jinbe could do with it. The logic here is that Oda teased this ability early on, and it's just been lying dormant, waiting to resurface in someone who truly represents the pinnacle of fishman strength. That's Jinbe, no contest. He's the most respected fishman in the series, former warlord of the sea, master of fishman karate, and now a straw hat. So how would this berserker state look? Picture Jinbe in battle against someone like Blackbeard or one of his top commanders. Things are getting intense. Maybe he's injured. Maybe the crew is in danger. Then bam, eyes go red, muscles tighten, his movements get erratic but powerful, and he starts tearing through his enemies with raw instinct, faster and stronger than ever before. No strategy, no calm demeanor, just rage, honor, and instinct. It wouldn't be a permanent form, more like a break glass in case of emergency moment, and narratively, it would show that even Jinbe, who is usually the calm, reliable one, has a deep well of emotion and primal energy buried inside. Also consider the timing. Many Straw Hats got major power-ups in Wano. Sanji with his exoskeleton, Robin with Demonio Fleur, Luffy with Gear 5. Jinbe didn't get a major new ability, just showed off more of the same awesome fishman karate, so he's due. This berserker mode would be a perfect final upgrade for him in the coming war. Theory 2. Jinbe will become the leader of Fishman Island and bring his people to the surface. This one hits way more on the emotional side of things. Jinbe will be the one to finally lead fishmen to the surface world, completing the dreams of Queen Otohime and Fisher Tiger. This has been building for decades in the story. Fishman Island has always been a symbol of discrimination, isolation, and suffering. Queen Otohime tried to change that with peace. Fisher Tiger tried through revolution. Both failed. But Jinbe, he's the perfect balance of both. Strong, respected, and calm enough to lead, but also tough enough to fight when necessary. The idea here is that after the final war, maybe after the world government is restructured or destroyed, there will finally be a window of opportunity for fishmen to come up to the surface. And Jinbe, now a global hero thanks to his journey with Luffy, will be the one to guide them. And this isn't just symbolism, it's Jinbe's purpose. His entire journey has revolved around helping his people, from being in the Sun Pirates, to serving under Whitebeard, to joining Big Mom for protection, to ultimately risking everything to join Luffy. Every move he's made has been about protecting fishmen. Now imagine the ending. Fishman Island is no longer hidden under the sea. Jinbe leads a migration to a new home, maybe somewhere safe in the new world, maybe even Elbaf or somewhere revolutionary. People see fishmen for who they really are. The kids can live without fear. Humans and fishmen work together. It's redemption, it's hope, and it's powerful as hell. And what seals it, Jinbe's position in the Straw Hats. He's not just a crew member, he's a living example of peace between humans and fishmen. He fights alongside humans, he trusts them, he believes in them. So when the dust settles, he's the one who's gonna be able to tell his people, it's time. We can live under the same sky now. Theory 3. Jinbe will unlock a new form of Fishman Karate that controls the environment. Now here's a technical one for the martial arts nerds out there. Jinbe is going to take Fishman Karate to the next level and use it to manipulate the environment on a massive scale. You already know that Fishman Karate is unique. It lets Jinbe use the moisture in the air and even manipulate water like a non-Logia user. That alone is crazy powerful, but the theory says he's only scratched the surface. The future of Fishman Karate, using water to create tidal waves, whirlpools, barriers, or even redirect attacks on a battlefield scale. Think about it like this. Jinbe is to Fishman Karate what Luffy is to the Gomu Gomu no Mi. He's pushing its limits, breaking expectations. He's not just using it to punch harder, he's reshaping how the entire art works. In a war zone, this new form would let him pull water from the air and use it to create shields. Turn puddles into projectiles, use surrounding rivers, lakes, or even blood, dark, to amplify his attacks. Disrupt enemy formations with water pressure shockwaves. It'd be like a pseudo-water Logia ability without the fruit. There's even a possibility that this new form becomes named, like an advanced style or awakening of the martial art. Maybe he teaches it to other fishmen later. Maybe he creates a school or dojo after the war. And it fits. Jinbe is a martial artist, but also a leader and mentor. It would be perfect for him to end the series not only as a hero, but as the man who reinvented Fishman Karate into something legendary. This would also shut down the idea that Jinbe is outpaced by the rest of the Straw Hats. Not even close. This evolution would make him one of the most dangerous fighters on the seas, hands down. Theory 1. Zoro will turn the Wado Ichimonji into a black blade. Let's start with the big one. The theory that Zoro is gonna turn the Wado Ichimonji into a black blade. This is practically a guarantee at this point, not even a maybe. It's like a future spoiler just waiting to happen. So we know there are swords in One Piece that are considered black blades. Mihawk's Yoru is one of them, and even though Oda hasn't fully explained what it takes to turn a sword black, the idea is that it happens when the user infuses their sword with haki consistently over a long period. It's a process, a commitment, a bond between warrior and weapon, and when that bond reaches its peak, boom, the blade becomes black forever. Now, Zoro has 3 swords, but only one of them is really his. The Wado Ichimonji, the blade that belonged to Kuina, the one tied to his childhood, to his promise, to his entire motivation. That sword isn't just a weapon to Zoro, it's his soul. So if any sword is gonna be permanently transformed, it has to be that one. The theory says Zoro will turn it into a black blade during his ultimate battle. battle, either against Mihawk or against Shiryu. Both make sense. If it's Mihawk, then Zoro forges the blade during the fight and wins, proving he's the new strongest swordsman. If it's Shiryu, maybe Shiryu defeats Mihawk earlier, possibly through cheap tricks, and Zoro takes him down to avenge Mihawk and claim the top spot. Either way, the Wado Ichimonji glowing black mid-fight would be a total goosebumps moment. It wouldn't just be about strength, it'd be about legacy, memory, and completing his journey, and narratively, it fits like a glove. Black blades are a huge mystery in the series. Oda's been sitting on that concept since Thriller Bark, so having Zoro figure it out, live it, and do it makes perfect sense. Especially with Enma teasing that transformation already, and who knows, maybe after turning the Wado black, he turns all three, triple black blade style. Let's go. But the theory holds that Wado comes first, and that one has emotional weight behind it. It's not just a sword, it's Quina, it's childhood, it's a promise kept. Theory 2, Zoro's eye is closed because it's hiding a hidden power. Alright, theory 2 is an old one, and yeah, it's meme-worthy at this point, but it still has potential. Zoro's closed eye is hiding a secret power. Ever since the time skip, Zoro's been rocking that closed left eye. We've never seen it open. No explanation, no injury, just a scar and nothing more. And this is weird, because in One Piece, if someone loses an eye, they usually still use it. Shanks, Sabo, Rayleigh, they all have eye scars, but their eyes are wide open. So why is Zoro's closed? The theory says he's keeping it shut because it hides something dangerous. A latent ability, maybe it's tied to observation haki on steroids or some cursed vision Mihawk gave him during their training. Maybe he's suppressing something to avoid accidentally going full monster mode. It could even be a form of haki we haven't fully seen yet, like Future Sight but dialed up to 100. Now yeah, people joke that Zoro's eye has a Sharingan or that he's hiding the Rinnegan, but jokes aside, the mystery is real. If Oda gave him a scar and closed the eye for no reason, it'd be bizarre storytelling. Here's where the theory gets spicy. Zoro will open his eye in the most critical moment of the story, not just because he needs more power, but because something unlocks. Maybe his vision expands, maybe he becomes hyper aware in battle, maybe he sees the flow of haki, something changes, and narratively, it tracks. Zoro's the kind of guy who holds back until the moment calls for it. Think of it like Goku removing the weighted clothes before a serious fight. If Zoro's been self-limiting himself this whole time, keeping that eye closed until he absolutely needs to go full power. It's the perfect setup for a late stage power boost. He's had major fights, King, Pika, Killer, but maybe his real awakening hasn't hit yet. This eye could be the trigger, the transformation from warrior to legend. Is this theory likely? Honestly, probably not, but if it happens, it'll be one of the most hype scenes in the entire series. Theory 3, Zoro will open a dojo after the final war and train the next generation, including girls like Quina. Let's round this out with a post-endgame theory. Zoro will retire and open a dojo, teaching the next generation of swordsmen and swordswomen. It's simple, but it hits deep. After Zoro becomes the world's strongest swordsman and helps Luffy become Pirate King, what's left for him? He's not the type to sit on a throne. He doesn't want fame or luxury. He lives for the sword, and he fights for those he believes in. So what happens when there are no more battles to fight? He gives back. This theory says Zoro returns to the dojo where he trained as a kid, the one where Kina fell down the stairs, or whatever really happened. And instead of just hanging out, he becomes the new master. He trains young kids, helps them discover their style, and spreads the art of the sword. But here's the best part, he opens the dojo to girls. Zoro saw firsthand how Quina's potential was crushed by societal expectations. She was told she couldn't be the best because she was a girl, and that haunted Zoro. Now that he is the best, he has the power to rewrite that narrative. He starts mentoring anyone who wants to learn. Boys, girls, whoever. He shows them that strength comes from spirit, not gender. He passes on what he learned from Mihawk, from his own journey, and maybe even from his opponents. He becomes the bridge between old and new. It's the most peaceful, fulfilling end Zoro could get. No more blood, no more war, just discipline, training, and wisdom. And imagine the legacy, a generation of elite swordsmen and swordswomen who all say, "I learned from Zoro, the man who fought the Pirate King's battles." Maybe one of them even looks like Quina. Maybe one of them becomes the next greatest swordsman, and Zoro, smiling with a sake bottle, just nods like good. It'd be emotional, powerful, and honestly, perfect. Theory 1. Luffy will unlock a new form beyond Gear 5, like Gear 5 Plus or a Final Awakening. Let's start with the most straightforward and hype-packed idea. Luffy hasn't reached his final form yet. Yeah, Gear 5 is amazing, hilarious, powerful, cartoonish, but that doesn't mean it's the end. The theory goes like this. While Gear 5 is Luffy's awakened state, it might not be the complete awakening of the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika. We've seen how Oda loves to surprise us with extra forms. Remember how Gear 4 had Bound Man, Snake Man, and Tank Man? So why would Gear 5 not have variations too? Think about it. Gear 5 debuted in 2022. One Piece will likely keep running until at least 2027 to 2030. Are we really going to watch Luffy use the same form for the next 5+ years without any upgrades? It doesn't feel like Oda's style. Fans get bored and merchandise needs fresh designs. Yeah, that matters too. So what kind of evolution could we get? This theory suggests we'll see either a Gear 5 Plus, like a refined, stronger, more complete version of the awakening, a god mode form where Luffy fully embodies the sun god, maybe glowing, maybe more serious, maybe faster and more lethal, or even a dark version of Nika. Sounds wild, but it's been floated before, like an inner conflict where Luffy taps into a dangerous, destructive version of his powers under extreme stress. We don't know the full ceiling of Nika's abilities. The fruit itself is mysterious. Joy Boy had it before, and he failed. Maybe that's the key. Luffy has to go beyond what Joy Boy could do. Gear 5 might be what Joy Boy used, but Luffy, he'll take it further. Narratively, it would be sick. Imagine Luffy losing to Blackbeard or Emu, and suddenly, boom, he snaps into a whole new state. Maybe it's triggered by protecting someone. Maybe his heart beats at a new rhythm. Whatever it is, it shocks everyone, and he turns the tide of the war in that moment. So yeah, Gear 5 ain't the end. It's the doorway, and what comes after is probably going to blow the roof off the fandom. Theory 2. Luffy will talk to Joy Boy or Roger using the voice of all things. Now this one's weird, but really cool. The theory says Luffy will have a conversation with Joy Boy, Gul D, Roger, or both, despite them being dead. How's that supposed to happen? Through something Oda introduced long ago, the voice of all things. Luffy has shown he can hear it. He understood Zunisha. He picked up things that others couldn't. So what if the voice of all things isn't just about listening to whales and poneglyphs? What if it's about communicating with the past? The theory is that somewhere along the journey, maybe at Laugh Tale or in a super spiritual moment, Luffy taps into this voice and reaches the echo of Joy Boy or Roger's will. We're not talking ghosts or spirits. This would be more like a memory or a soul-deep conversation that transcends time. Fans imagine a scene where Luffy sits down, maybe in a dream, maybe in a space outside reality, and Joy Boy appears, or Roger, or both. They chat, joke, fight, laugh. Luffy says he'll succeed where they failed. Joy Boy tells him he's finally the right guy to carry the torch. It sounds crazy, but think about how emotional and poetic it would be. Luffy doesn't idolize Roger, but he walks his path. He carries the inherited will, and unlike others, he does it his way. Talking to those two giants of the past would validate Luffy's journey, but also let them pass on unfinished business. Maybe they give advice. Maybe they leave cryptic last words. Maybe Joy Boy just laughs and says, "You figured it out, huh?" And if you tie this theory into Brook's soul powers, or some ancient poneglyph type mechanism, it's not even that hard to justify. One Piece has talking ships after all. This is way less of a stretch. Is it likely? Who knows, but if it happens, you can bet fans will lose their minds. And honestly, Luffy and Joy Boy sitting at a table, cracking jokes before the final war? I'm down. Theory 3. Luffy isn't truly free. He's a prisoner of destiny. Now for the most philosophical and emotionally deep theory. Luffy isn't really free and never has been. This one hits hard because it challenges everything Luffy stands for. His whole journey is about freedom. He doesn't want to rule, doesn't want power, just wants to live on his own terms. He's the sun god, the joyful warrior, the guy who breaks chains. That's who he is. But what if that's exactly what was meant to happen? Look at the facts. Luffy inherited Roger's will. He ate the Nika fruit by chance. He was saved by Shanks, trained by Rayleigh, mentored by Garp, and carried by fate time and time again. again. The stars aligned for him to become Joy Boy. There's even a moment in the manga where someone says, maybe it's not his dream, it's his destiny. That line sticks. Because if Luffy is destined to do all this, is he really free? Or is he just a cog in a prophecy machine? This theory suggests that Oda is setting up a meta-narrative twist, that One Piece isn't just about reaching Laugh Tale, it's about breaking free from destiny itself, that Luffy's true final challenge won't be beating Emu or changing the world, it'll be rejecting the idea that he was meant to do any of it. Maybe the final poneglyph says, this is the end. Joy Boy will do XYZ, and Luffy says, nah. Maybe he finds the One Piece and doesn't want to use it the way everyone expects. Maybe he doesn't want to be Joy Boy. Maybe the real ending is Luffy finally making a choice that breaks the cycle. That would be bold, deep, a total gut punch for fans. But it would make Luffy's freedom real, because right now, everything he's done has felt like it was guided. The world government feared him before he was even strong. His bounty reflects his destiny, not his crimes. He's not a rogue, he's fated. So this theory flips the story. The man who wants to be the most free in the world is actually trapped in the most rigid fate of all, and only by denying that fate can he be truly free. Damn. And that's it for the 3 theories for each of the Straw Hats. All explained. You can leave any opinions you have about them in the comments. I'll be reading them, and you can also debate with each other. Also, if you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate a big like. And if you subscribe to the channel to help reach 5,000 subscribers and make my dream come true. Big hug, and I'll see you in the next video.